फ्रेंड्स, घर घर में चर्चा होती है LIC के प्रोडक्ट्स की कि कौन सा प्रोडक्ट लिया जाए। अभी मार्केट में बजिंग है LIC IPO। सो चलिए हम चर्चा करते हैं LIC IPO के बारे में। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। Before understanding what role does embedded value and persistency ratio play in the LIC IPO, let's first go through the fundamentals of LIC, and embedded value and persistency ratios will be discussed in the later part of the video. LIC ऑपरेट कर रहा है लास्ट 65 ईयर्स से इन इंडिया एंड इट वाज द ओनली इंश्योरर टिल द ईयर 2000। ईयर 2000 में द इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर वाज ओपन टू द प्राइवेट इंश्योरर्स और फिर प्राइवेट इंश्योरर्स केम इनटू एग्जिस्टेंस, बट अंटिल देन LIC वाज द ओनली इंश्योरर इन इंडिया। So we can see what can be the penetration level of LIC in the insurance sector as it is operating since so many years. Discussing about the market share of LIC, so looking at the pie chart that we have shown on the screen, the LIC share is 64% in terms of total premium as of fiscal year 2021, and top 5 private players has a share of 25% and others are 11%. And when we see in terms of new business premium, LIC has a share of 66.2%, and the other top 5 private players have a share of around 24%. So we can see that LIC has a high market share when compared to the private insurers. Even when we see globally the top insurers, then we can see that in the table, the difference in India between the first life insurer and the second life insurer, that is the market share of LIC is 64%, whereas the market share of SBI, who is the second top insurer in India, its market share is 8%. So we can see how the difference is so big between the two. So that means it signifies that LIC is dominating the insurance industry in India. Now ये समझने के बाद कि LIC खुद में ही एक कितनी बड़ी कंपनी है एंड इसका वैल्यूएशन कितना ह्यूज हो सकता है, सो लेट्स understand the points which must be kept in mind before applying for LIC IPO. Discussing about the product mix of the insurance companies. Now as we know कि insurance company के products होंगे participatory, non-participatory and linked and non-linked. तो LIC का जो product mix है that is majorly non-linked savings plan, saving products you can say. So these non-linked saving products are not linked to the markets and market cycles, and since they are not linked, so they are less volatile. क्योंकि लेस वॉलेटाइल होते हैं तो दे गिव मोर कंफर्ट टू द पॉलिसी होल्डर्स, बट एट द सेम टाइम इनका यील्ड लो हो जाता है, यील्ड इज लोअर, एंड इवन जो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ऑफ LIC इज लोअर, कैन बी लोअर एज कंपेयर टू इट्स पेयर्स because it has a lower margin plans. Now, is LIC superior in terms of cost to the as against the private players, and why LIC's cost structure is less as compared to the private players? So let's see why. We can see from the chart that the total cost ratio as a percentage of total premium for LIC is 14.2% in financial year 21 as compared to private players, which was 16.9%. Though we can see that the cost for the private players is also coming down. The decrease, or you can say the LIC's cost structure is more favorable because LIC is operating since 65 years. Though it has a very heavy commission based cost structure, the agents of LIC are immense. The agent network is high for LIC, and it incurs a large part of cost as commissions. Then also since it is operating since a lot of years, since 65 years, तो एक इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल आ जाती हैं इतना लार्ज स्केल ऑफ ऑपरेशन से. सो LIC उसका बेनिफिट्स उसको मिल रहा है, दैट्स वाई cost structure for LIC is favorable then as compared to the private players. But private players के भी we can see in the chart that the cost is coming down. LIC is also the largest asset manager in India. It managed assets around rupees 36.8 trillion as on March 31st, 2021. So we can see that how big is LIC. Now, when compared to the other private life insurers, it can be seen that the assets managed by LIC was 3.3 times more than the total assets managed by all the private life insurers in India. नॉट ओनली दैट, अगर हम म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री और LIC को कंपेयर करें तो LIC के पास 1.1 टाइम्स एसेट्स मैनेज्ड आर मोर देन द एसेट्स म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री मैनेजेस. LIC is also the largest domestic institutional investor in India. और ये जो पॉलिसी होल्डर्स के फंड्स हैं उनको इन्वेस्ट करती है इक्विटीज़ में, मेनली इक्विटीज़ विच आर पार्ट ऑफ द कंपनीज विच आर पार्ट ऑफ निफ्टी 200 and BSE 200 indices. And we can see from the fact that LIC's investments in listed equity represented around 4% of the total market capitalization of NSE. नाउ द थिंग टू नोट हियर इज़ दैट कि पॉलिसी होल्डर्स का जो फंड्स है वो इज़ डाइवर्सिफाइड, वो इन्वेस्ट होता है अराउंड 38% इन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़, 25% इक्विटी में है, एंड अनदर 25% इज़ इन स्टेट गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़ and 8% is in corporate bonds. So we can see that though equity में investments है, but the investment is more skewed towards the debt side instead of equities. Now discussing about the multi-channel distribution networks of insurance companies, we can see that the multi-channel distribution network comprises of individual agents, banks, then direct business and others. So LIC's network of agents is very strong when compared to its peer set of private insurers companies operating in India, and about 94% of the new business premium that is generated is contributed by agents. And the contribution from banks and direct business is very less, as we can see in the table. It's just 3% and 2% of the new business premium. So we can say it has a strong network of strong agent network contributing to sales. But on the other hand, we can see that the LIC lags in banking and direct to consumer channels. Now let's understand what is persistency ratio for insurance companies. Persistency ratio is the ratio when a policy holder continues to pay the renewal premium for all the coming years. That is known as a persistency ratio. ना परसिस्टेंसी रेशियो रिफ्लेक्ट करता है कि कितने पॉलिसी होल्डर्स ने अपना रेनुअल प्रीमियम पे किया है, एंड इससे वी कैन नो कि हाउ विल बी द फ्यूचर ग्रोथ ऑफ द इंश्योरेंस कंपनी और कितना बिजनेस में कंटिन्यूटी है. तो ये जानने के लिए वी कैलकुलेट परसिस्टेंसी रेशियो. Now in a persistency ratio what happens is कि every like 1 year complete हुआ, then the renewal falls on the 13th month of the next year, that is second year. So 13th month, then at the end of third year it would be 25th month, then 37th month and 61st month. So 61st month is the payment of renewal premium for the 5th year. So by knowing this persistency ratio we can understand कि how an insurance company is performing. जितना persistency ratio ज़्यादा होगा, that means it is the customers are more sticky to the company, towards the company. If the persistency ratio is less, that means the customers are not paying their renewal premiums and they are surrendering their insurance policies. Now when we look at the table which shows the persistency ratio, we can see that LIC had the lowest ratio in the initial year, that is a 13th month on which the renewal premium fell due. So LIC's persistency ratio was 78.8 times, whereas when we compare it to the private insurers it was more than 80. And in the 61st year, LIC had the highest persistency ratio, which was 60.6 times when compared to other private insurers, where it was around 45 to 50 times. So this was so higher persistency ratio indicates a stickier customer base, whereas a lower persistency ratio means more surrenders. Now we will see what are the recent changes that have been made in the LIC Act and how it has affected its embedded value, and we will also understand what is embedded value. There was a change in the surplus distribution policy of LIC. Earlier what used to happen that LIC maintained only one pooled fund called the life fund, and the surpluses allocated were 95% for the policy holders and 5% for shareholders, that is the government of India. Now, with the amendment in the surplus distribution policy, the policyholders fund is now bifurcated into participating and non-participating funds. And now 100% of the equity book was transferred to the non-participating funds. So now the shareholders' interest in the non-participating funds has increased to 100%. And because of this increase in shareholders' interest by 100%, the future value of profits has increased, as we can now see in the table. Now, before going through the table, we will understand what is embedded value. Embedded value is a sum of net asset value, that is the adjusted net worth, and present value of future profits of a LIC. Now, future इधर जो बात we have to keep in mind is that जो future profits are considered only from the existing business, और जो कि introduction of new policy से profits आने वाले हैं, that are not considered in while calculating the embedded value. So now if we see in the table, the present value of future profits has increased from 1.04 lakh crores to 5.46 lakh crores. So this has increased massively due to the change in the surplus distribution policy of the LIC Act. Thereby, the Indian embedded value has increased from 0.95 lakh crores to 5.39 lakh crores. And this is a very sharp rise in the embedded value. One more point to note here is that if the same fund structure was followed without any changes in the regulation, then the embedded value would have been 1.24 lakh crore. इंडियन गवर्नमेंट प्लान कर रही है 5% डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट LIC में, और इसी से LIC IPO की साइज़ हो सकती है अराउंड ₹60,000 to 65,000 crore के अराउंड. And with this size, the enterprise valuation comes to around 13 lakh crore. And since the embedded value is 5.4 lakh crore, तो मे बी प्राइस बैंड हो सकता है रफली अराउंड ₹2,000 के आसपास. बट ऑल द डिटेल्स आर टेंटेटिव क्योंकि अभी भी RHP फाइल नहीं हुआ है. सो LIC का IPO was expected to launch in the month of March and हो भी सकता है, but because of the geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine and even the market बहुत volatile है, तो मे बी गवर्नमेंट defer कर सकती है IPO to the next fiscal year. But instead of deferring government, it might also be possible that ये IPO गवर्नमेंट एक lower valuation पे लेके आए, and even policy holders के लिए there is already a planned discount of 10% to the policy holders. बट मे बी हो सकता है रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए भी कुछ डिस्काउंट प्रपोज करें गवर्नमेंट. सो लेट्स वेट फॉर द RHP, कभी RHP आता है, एंड फॉर द any announcement by the government of India about the LIC IPO. हेंस इन समरी हमने देखा है कि LIC कैसे एक डोमिनेंट प्लेयर है इंडियन इंश्योरेंस इंडस्ट्री में, और कैसे पीयर बेंचमार्किंग है इसकी इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ द चैनल मिक्स एजेंसी नेटवर्क, एंड प्रोडक्ट मिक्स कैसा है एज अगेंस्ट इट्स पीयर्स, एंड एम्बेडेड वैल्यू क्या होती है, and what things we have to keep in mind while deciding for the LIC IPO whether to invest or not. We have to see the persistency ratios and the embedded value, and even NPA ratio as a percentage of premium. So hope this video will help you in making your decision and knowing about LIC. Thank you.